Hey guys, it's Margaret. You know the drill. New month means new monthly setup. So today, I'm gonna walk you through all of my super fun September spreads. September's pretty legit. And by legit, I mean legit amazing because it's pumpkin spice latte season. Woo-woo. But before you grab that pumpkin spice latte, make sure you subscribe to 17's YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on any future bullet journaling tips and tricks. Okay, let's get started. For my September monthly opening page, I first wrote out September in cute calligraphy. For this month's theme, I decided to go with feathers and leaves in a fall color palette. To make the feather, I first drew a long curved stem. Then I made a slightly rounded but also slightly jagged edge and filled in each side with squiggly lines. I started with the same curved stem for the first leaf. Next, I drew the outline of the leaf in a wavy, symmetrical fashion. I finished this off by drawing the veins of the leaf. The second leaf I drew was pretty simple. I drew a teardrop shape for the outside of the leaf and then added in the veins and the stem. Leaves come in all shapes and sizes, so don't be afraid to experiment with shapes and see what works best for your bullet journal. Last month, I decided to go with a calendar layout for my monthly overview. And I loved using it so much that I decided to bring it into this month's setup as well. The way I did this was by drawing a box for each day of the month that was 8 by 8 in my Bondi book journal. Next, I drew a smaller box in the top left corner where I will put the number of the day of the month. Above that, I drew a rectangle that was 8 by 2 for the name of the day of the week. Next, I shaded in all of the rectangular boxes at the top of the page with one color and used another color to shade in each of the little boxes in the corner for each calendar day. After that, I wrote out the days of the week and the number of the day of the month in each small box. In the extra space to the right of the calendar, I created two tall rectangles for a section where I will put my goals and my to-dos. I labeled the columns and then added horizontal lines inside of them to make it extra easy to fill in. I wrote September on the top of the calendar and began to draw all of my fun leaf doodles from the opening spread on this page. This page is your best bet for an at-a-glance look into your September schedule. Okay, now moving on to my weekly. I really like to keep my weekly spreads simple so that I can recreate them easily from week to week. For this month's weekly, I began by drawing 2 rows of squares, each 15 by 15 boxes in size, but making sure to leave room at the top for each day of the week. In the space I left at the top of each square, I drew a small circle with the date and the day of the week written next to it. In the bottom right square, instead of writing the day of the week, I wrote reminders. The next step is to fill in each box with horizontal lines. I always put horizontal lines in running lists because I want to make sure that all of my letters are clean and level when I write. After this, I added a drop shadow to each of the squares and filled it in with a black marker. Then I wrote weekly planner in tall, skinny letters at the top of the page. For my doodles on this page, I drew a tree branch with leaves falling from it in all different kinds of fall colors. Looking at how beautiful this weekly spread turns out really motivates me to want to finish all of my tasks just because of how fun and effortless it looks. One spread that I don't always include in my monthly setup, but that's always super helpful when I do, is an expense tracker. It really helps me to see where I'm spending most of my money and where I can save money. I'm definitely going to need it this fall with my high-key obsession with PSLs. The way I laid out this page is I first wrote the numbers of the day of the month vertically up the page, starting from 30 and going to 1, and then next to that I wrote the day of the week. I then drew a large rectangle that is 31 by 31 boxes. I continued by creating 5 smaller columns toward the left of the box that are 3 boxes wide. Next, I drew a vertical dividing the remaining section into one column that is 12 boxes wide and another column that is 4 boxes wide. Following that, I filled in the entire box with horizontal lines. Once I finished this step, I drew an adjoining box to the existing box for a place where I can put my monthly total expenses. I took a light-colored marker and filled in the row at the very top of the box and labeled each column with a category I spend money on. I labeled mine food, house, transit, wants, and other, but you can label yours with whatever ones you want. Then I wrote notes and a daily total. At the very top of the page, I wrote expense tracker in fun pink colored calligraphy and took my black marker and added a drop shadow. Then I drew green leaves surrounding the entire page. To use this page, just fill in the items you spent money on each day, and I promise you it will help you balance your budget and spend less. Last, but definitely not least, is my habit tracker. For this month, I decided to nix my classic graph habit tracker, and instead, I used a tree and leaves to document every time I completed a habit. The first thing I did was draw 8 leaves at the bottom of the page and label each leaf with a different habit that you want to keep track of. This bottom section will be your color key. This month, I decided to track my exercise, healthy eating, studying, calling family, drinking water, reading, sleeping 8 hours, and self-care. I then assigned a color for each habit. So, pink is exercise, dark green is healthy eating, red is studying, orange is calling family, yellow is drinking water, blue is reading, light green is sleeping 8 hours, and purple is self-care. But of course, you can assign whatever colors you want to your habits. Next, I drew my tree in the middle of the page and drew several leaves surrounding the tree. To use this spread, I would color in a leaf with the colors that correspond to the habit I completed. Then, at the end of the month, you'll have a pretty colorful tree, and you'll have completed all your goals. It's a win-win. That's it. I hope this monthly setup leaves you, get it, leaves you, I'm so funny, inspired and ready for the month of September. Be sure to comment on the theme you're using in your monthly setup in the section below. And as always, make sure to subscribe to 17's YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on any future bullet journaling tips and tricks. See you next week.